Hello and welcome to Chakontas on Friday. I'm Mr. Chakonta and this is my co-host.
This is Chakontas.
And this is a new podcast that we'll be releasing on Friday. Just talking about life, our experiences, and everything in between.
So sit back and enjoy the journey.
Episode 1. And today's episode we'll be talking about a good topic I think in our marriage, which is hot and cold. I think I'm cold and you are
Hot?
and
What?
I think this is just basically our personalities. My wife would like hot tea. I like cold drinks. And
I love the warm weather.
I like the cold weather. So even in the bed I'll probably have cold sheets and you'll have
The warm plus the blanket.
So basically it shows that we are on opposite sides, and us being on the opposite sides makes it sometimes good, sometimes it's frustrating. So like, where do you feel the frustration points are in us being on different sides?
I think it depends on the situation. I think it is frustrating when it's a situation where I guess I want it to benefit me, maybe. Whereas if it benefits me that you're on the opposite side, then it's not a problem. I don't know if that makes sense. So if it works for me that you're on the opposite side, then I'm happy. I sound so selfish, but I guess I guess that's where the frustration comes in more when it doesn't work that we're on the opposite sides.
Okay, I kind of understand where you're coming from. I think it's the same thing also for me. Like, it's frustrating, especially when you're trying to drive something or drive a conversation or drive something that needs to be done in the home. And then since we've got different personalities, we'll deal with the situation differently. But there's a blessing in that, but there was also a frustration point in that, because I want you to do it the way I do it.
Yeah.
Which there's a level of selfishness in that. And I think if we take it from an aspect of God has made us uniquely different, and because of our differences, it's like we're trying to, as much as we know that our differences should complement each other, we find that the tension of the differences we have is something that we struggle with.
Yeah.
And yes. I think God has placed us uniquely in that situation so that, one, to either help us grow in Christ, because it also shows us just about the aspect of the church, where the church needs to have different members that function together for the edification of the church.
Yeah.
So it's funny that something that is a benefit, we still find is a struggle. Why do you think that's the issue?
Why do we find it a struggle? I think because maybe sometimes we don't acknowledge that it's okay that in this situation we're opposite sides. I think we don't see the benefit in that as well as we should. I don't think we don't look at the bigger picture. Maybe we just look at that situation, maybe narrow-minded, or he's not doing what I want him to do, or she's not doing what I would want her to do. So I think we struggle because we don't see the beauty in it. Whereas I think if we acknowledge that actually my husband thinking that way, complete opposite to me, is great, because he's seeing a blind spot that I don't see, or he's seeing something that he can foresee something that I can't foresee, or he's planning something that I haven't even thought about, and actually that is a benefit. So if I see that as a strong point, then, and it's great because in a team you need to have people who have different qualities, we bring different things to the table, and we do that at work. Like we don't employ the same person, or people who do the same who have the same skills. We always want different skill sets to then complement each other. And I think the more we start to recognize that you and I are supposed to be different, I think the better that we will be at communicating and enjoying our marriage more.
Okay, that's okay. But do you feel like there's some times where like our personalities sometimes switch? Like as you saying, I'm cold and you're hot. Yeah. But do you feel like there's some times where like we switch from I become hot and you become cold? And why do you think it's like there's never a point where we're both, if we are hot together, it's good.
Yeah.
And then if we're caught together, it's also good. But I think there's also a disadvantage in that. So why is it that? Yeah, I don't know if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I get you. Like we're never lukewarm.
Yeah.
Like we never actually get to a point where like, oh, we are sometimes, but it doesn't last long. I think we do, but it doesn't last long.
But do you think being lukewarm is a good thing for a relationship?
Yeah.
But from a biblical perspective,
but
like we see, like
maybe not that word, because if you look at it biblically, being lukewarm is not a great thing. But I think it is good for our relationship because sometimes because by that I mean like we're more in. I guess again, because I was gonna say when we're lukewarm, we're more in harmony, but actually that's a wrong perception for me to say that, because just because we're on the opposite side doesn't mean that we're not in harmony. So I think it's a mindset thing, and my mindset perhaps needs to shift. So it's okay if we're on the same page in this particular area, because then we're working well together in that area. But it's okay in this other area if we're on opposite side, and it's okay if we switch completely. But I think the issue is, which I guess maybe later on we might go into detail about, because we're kind of speaking broadly, is if we were to give specific examples, because there's some examples where actually it's more beneficial for the home to be on opposite side, and maybe there's some where it's more beneficial if we were in the middle.
Okay, like let's say for example, let me give some scenarios on finances. In a relationship, what about one is a spender and one is a saver?
Yeah.
Is that also a scenario of hot and cold?
Yeah. We're allowed to point fingers.
Okay, I'm the spender.
Yes.
And you're the saver.
Yeah.
But I think recently we've switched.
Yeah.
So I've become. So which one? Okay, which one do we refer as hot, and which one is cold? Say between the spender and the saver.
We can say the saver is cold.
Okay, so we'll refer you as hot. So the saver
and
is
the saver
hot.
Is hot. Okay.
And then the other guy, I'm cold because I'm the spender.
Okay.
But then, so recently I've been on the hot side.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And do you feel like that's good for our relationship? Because if we are in the lukewarm zone, it's not helpful for us.
I think.
Or if we're on one side.
I see. I think there's seasons. I think seasons for you and I should determine which where we're leaning towards. I think, although, how do I put it? I used to. Yeah, I think initially I never appreciated the fact that you're a spender, because I think I was a bit too much of a saver. That I've come to realize that, money, like we're not, as hard as it is, we're not here forever. There is an element of money that needs to be spent. And like, why am I trying so hard to try and save these 50p when I really want that marshmallow on my hot chocolate, and I really want, the extra cream on my hot chocolate, but I'm like, it's £1 more. Actually, I want it. I can afford it, but why not? So I think I've become a little bit more relaxed in a sense of, if I would like something and it's reasonable, I will have it. But I'm still not, I think you can be a spender, but there needs to be a limit in both areas. Okay. So whether you're a saver or a spender, you can't just keep saving. What are you saving for? And then are you in that saving? You're saving so much that you're struggling, or you're cold at home because you're not, do you get what I mean? Or are you spending so much that you can't pay for your rent, or you can't pay for this, or you're not planning well enough? I think in financial situations, I think it might be a good one maybe to be a bit in the middle.
So do you think lukewarm positions are the best positions for relationships then?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I don't, to be honest, I don't agree also. And I think sometimes it's the different uniquenesses that we have give strength to the marriage.
Yeah.
And there's some times where we need those hot and cold moments. And I think sometimes, the hard part is probably yielding towards now when we're both hot and cold and we're in our positions, now who comes to the hot side and who comes to the cold side?
Yeah.
Because we need those seasons. Because when we're in the lukewarm zone, it's good, but sometimes it takes away from the unique personalities that we have.
Yeah.
And from those unique personalities that we have is not beneficial towards the health of our relationship. That's what I think personally. Yeah.
I see where you're coming from. Yeah.
Yeah. So on the hotness and coldness, it's just funny that our personalities are like that, and we can also point to certain things that we look at and say, look, this is something intangible that we can look at and say, yeah, I'm hot, you're cold, I'm cold, and you're hot. So is there any other example you would want to give about hot and cold?
Can't think of any at the moment. Do you have something in mind?
Okay, let me give an example of, like, let's say things about like how you run the house. Like, let's say direction. Like, let's say let me scratch that. Let me give an example of, we're giving our example to people who are either striving to be in a relationship, or trying to get into a relationship with the purpose of getting married. Yeah. So now, how do they navigate those seasons of either finding somebody, and how do they now design their hot and coldness to the benefit of their marriage, to get to know each other and to move forward and see that those are actually unique gifts that can be helpful for their marriage?
I see what you mean. I think it's that's quite a broad question, but I think recognizing that, because I feel like, I can only speak from my experience and speak on what we've been through, so I don't know how others might experience it, but I think looking back, I cherished the things that we had in common the most. And one of the things that if I would speak about you, like, and we love this together, and we're both like this and we're like that. So I feel like I put a lot of emphasis, or higher emphasis, on the things that we had in common, and I, without realizing, neglected the things that you were great at, but that was specific you. That was, this my husband can do in his sleep. This my husband is a 10 out of 10. Like, and I am a 2. But I although I saw those qualities, and I loved them, and still do, I don't think I put them on the table. And so in marriage, I've now come to realize that, these differences that we do have, I should put them on the table and put them in the mix, because this is the things that we have in common and the things that we don't have in common, and all of that mixed together is what's making our relationship strong and work and complement each other and our home.
That's really good. Yeah, because another question I had, or just in my head that I was just thinking, so do we, like, as you were just speaking, you're saying like you were focusing on the things that we have in common. So do you feel like when we focus so much on that, we romanticize the aspects of us being in common as the way to basically now fall in love, in agreement and everything like that, to the point of where we are not actually actively designing the relationship to basically say, okay, we have everything in common, but now, okay, now let's talk about things we don't have in common, and how can they work. Do you think that can be do you think that's the best way of dating, where we actually say, okay, we need to actually also understand areas of where we are maybe far away, and maybe we can agree to disagree on this, or maybe this is a no, we have to be on the same page? Do you feel that?
I don't know if I would use the word best, but I don't know, perhaps. But yes, I'm with you. I think that's a great way to do it. I guess perhaps, I would say best, actually, to be honest, because you have to say which one's better or the least, or I would say that is the best, because then I think it also reduces the surprises, because you've actually seen the other side where you don't have the things that you don't have in common, or the things that you don't agree on, or you have different views on, and you've actually brought them to the table, and you say, okay, how can this strength, this thing that my husband's really good at, or the way my husband thinks in this way, how does that work for our home, and how can it be beneficial for us? Or maybe some things that actually one needs to leave behind, that we're saying it in a way as if everything that one person might be really good at, everything needs to come to into marriage. But actually, after you've had that conversation, perhaps there's some things that you highlight that either of you or both of either of you need to leave behind before you say I do.
As in, you need to leave your katundu that side.
Yeah, you need to say, no, this is not good for our marriage.
Okay.
This actually, after we've analyzed this, I think it's a really difficult one, but possible. Actually, no, you spending like this is just, it's great that you're a spender. It's great that you're a saver, but this is excess spending, and this financially is not sustainable, because we want to have this in our marriage, this home, if we have children, A, B, C, D, so you cannot continue spending like this. Or look, we can't keep saving for what? We need to use this money for something. So I think there's some elements that might need to be left behind before you say I do, and therefore helps with the transition, or reduces the amount of possible arguments you may have, or you will have.
But again, also, I think maybe just a disclaimer that I would just also want to encourage other people, as we're just talking here. It doesn't mean that when we have those conversations, or even though you're intentional with those conversations, you have to be able to be prepared that in the marriage, there's also a learning period that you need to go through. And it doesn't mean that because we've talked about them, we'll be perfect at them.
Yes.
Especially when we are totally on hot and cold points on certain situations.
Yeah.
And then us trying to now study those things and come out, maybe if hot is bad and now we have to go to the cold point, then it's going to be a journey. And we have to have a level of patience as we're going through. It's going to be hard, because I think this is what triggers arguments.
Yeah.
Because someone who's on the cold side will probably be saying, why aren't you there? Why aren't you there? And also the same thing, if somebody's on the hot side and hot is good, then somebody wants to say, look, for the strength of our marriage, you have to get closer to the hot side.
Yeah.
And you trying to do that because the cold side is actually detrimental towards the health of the marriage.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to see just the dynamics, even as we've been married for 5 years now, and it's a journey. And I think the journey is something that we need to appreciate, that there will be ups and downs. And even as you're climbing a mountain, it's not always going to be smooth.
Yeah.
There will be areas where it's going to be rough. And those roughness and aspects of that, I think God uniquely uses those situations to actually help us grow.
Yes.
Because I think one of the things that we forget, that marriage is a ministry that is one of the intentional ministries that God uses to help us grow like Christ. And we have to wrestle with one another, because as we are wrestling with one another, we are trying to exemplify Christ to each other through the marriage relationship. And so 5 years down, we hope for another 5 years, God willing, and
and some more,
and so another 5 years, as in
5 years, and then
another 5 years, and then after we'll be saying another 10 years. So like every year we'll be just saying another 6 years. So next year will be 6 years old, like another 6 years, another 7 years. You get what I mean?
I get you.
Okay.
So God's grace.
Yeah, I think for the first episode we can talk for a long time, to be honest, but I think we'll keep this short. And so any advice or anything that you would want to encourage people who will listen to this podcast, what's your advice to them? Or encouragement?
My encouragement. It's a really hard one. What's my encouragement? I would encourage everyone to appreciate, to try and recognize, like, take a step back and look at your other half's qualities, and even some that maybe you're on opposite ends. Try and appreciate those qualities.
Yeah.
But obviously, I know there's some qualities where you're like, no, there's no appreciation here. Like, that quality just needs to go. But I hope you could sort of, sometimes we look at, it's because you want someone to be like you that maybe you're trying to take that, you're trying to change them. Because you want them to be like you, want them to think like you, but actually there's nothing wrong with how they're thinking, there's nothing wrong with what they're doing. So maybe you just need to appreciate that element. But I know this is not applicable to all situations, but I hope that God can guide you in that.
Okay, yeah. And my advice is just embrace the hot and coldness of your personalities, and learn from them. Use it as a learning mechanism to learn each other, and know that life is a learning process, and we need to embrace the journey of learning. So so I think we'll come to the end of our podcast first episode. We hope that you guys have enjoyed it. Until next time, we'll try our best to release as much as we can on when.
When? I know, I'm struggling to make a commitment. On Fridays.
Yes, on Fridays. We'll try our best. So, but look, don't hold it to us if something doesn't come on another Friday. Life is busy. Sometimes, so be patient with us. This is something that we'll try to be consistent as much as we can.
Yes. And
but for now, we'll just give you the first aspect of what's the name of the channel? Sorry.
I was gonna say Life with the Chakontas, but it's Fridays with the Chakontas.
Fridays with the Chakontas. So have a happy Friday, and until next time, take care and
bye.
Bye. God bless.